They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Seatin, and welcome to the Citadel of Insanity video guide. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you all about how to kill bosses, not die, and generally be good at the game. So there's tons of that fun stuff in this video. If you like that stuff, you're watching the right video. So, on to the first boss. The first boss is a giant, pregnant-ish looking crab who poops out glacial ice shard minions all over the place. Now, this boss actually does have a variety of tactics. Although we have come up with one tactic we like to call the two-healer tactic. Now, this tactic involves using, especially when you're kind of first going into the dungeon, two healers, ideally a purifier and a physician. So what the boss is going to do is he's going to put up basically a shield on himself, and this shield will only go down when you drag him into the AoE, which is called like boiling water, and that removes kind of the shield for him on a temporary basis. As soon as you drag him out of the AoE and the debuff expires from the AoE on the boss, then what's going to happen is he is going to reapply that shield again. So the kind of like general gist of the fight for people who aren't using two healers is to kind of, drag him in and out of the AoE. But it makes it 100 times easier if you have two healers, and you just absolutely spam the crap out of the tank, ensure that he doesn't die. The tank can tank the boss inside the AoE all the time, and the two other DPS can just single target the boss, and that is pretty much it. You can stay still and stacked up, and you won't have to worry about sort of any AoE damage, and it is a really easy boss to do. So I advise using two healers, ideally, a purifying physician, but if you can't do that, pretty much any combination of two healers will work. Just drag it to the AoE, nuke the boss, you win. If anybody gets targeted and emoted by the boss that he's throwing a frozen spike at them, just quickly chuck a shield on them or use some sort of mitigation cooldown and be ready to dispel. And that is really it. You can just completely ignore the ads, and this tactic works brilliantly for us. We have not wiped since we've started using it. So that's it for Glacius. Easy boss. Now the second boss is this giant mutated, hungry, fat oaf of a caterpillar, nightmare worm thing called Cressa Finn, and he is pretty I love the model on it. It's so disgusting. I love it. It's brilliant. But the mechanics to this one are fairly straightforward. Now the most important thing to note on this boss is he actually can't be tanked. He's going to be spewing damage bolts at random people. So for this boss, you want one healer ideally and 4 DPS. So that's the kind of setup you want to roll with, and he's pretty easy in terms of mechanics. So what you're going to see is you gradually sort of gain stacks of bile throughout this fight. They all sort of passively apply one every kind of like 5 to 10 seconds, and the way that you remove these stacks is by breaking the eggs and kind of eating one of the little larvas that are inside, or basically just right clicking on them. So what we do is we all stack up and move as a group. Once we're on about 3 or 4 stacks, we will have either myself or one of the other people quickly just AoE down all of the eggs, and then everyone will take one of the bugs, cleanse their stacks, and that is pretty much it for that mechanic. Another mechanic that you'll notice is he will encase a random member of the group. This means to basically break free, there are 2 ways. You can use the break free ability, which everybody has from, ascended powers, etc., and that will break free of the AoE, or you can have sort of 2 other group members go and click on the kind of shell that you're encased in, and that will break you free from that. So that's also a very important reason why you should stack up on this fight, and it's pretty damn important for that. The final thing that he's going to be doing is he will basically be applying a shield to himself. You'll see him doing it now, and he's going to start healing himself. So what you have to do is you have to break down this shield and then interrupt the heal, and easy mode. That is a fairly easy mechanic to deal with. He doesn't heal too much, but it's best to interrupt him as soon as possible to avoid any healing at all. The final kind of mechanic that he really does, which isn't too much of a problem, is he's just going to be firing bolts at people. Occasionally these do have a tendency to hit for very large amounts, sort of 45 to 50k, so it kind of is the healer's job to make sure everybody is topped up and ideally shielded. Apart from that, that boss is very easy, and for most groups it is going to be free loot. Just an additional tidbit I wanted to throw into this guide. Now, if you manage to get to just before the third boss, Scalar, before 15 minutes is up, you actually have the chance to fight this brainwashed Dream Guard. And if you kill this brainwashed Dream Guard, which he is pretty damn easy, the only thing he does is of concern is like the big AoEs, which will always come out of the same location, and he hits very, very hard on the tank. But if you manage to get to him and kill him within 15 minutes, which most groups who have this dungeon on farm will be able to do, you actually get an additional piece of blue loot, which, you know, can be useful. I believe it's totally random loot off either one of the first, second, or third boss, so it could be any one of their drops. And it's pretty damn cool, you know, just an additional tidbit. I like that a lot of these Nightmare Tide Expert dungeons do have this opportunity for bonus loot for sort of well-performing players. Gale Fortress definitely has the same. So yeah, if you get there fast and do it, then a chest will spawn and you save this guy, and you get an additional piece of blue loot, and who can really pass up on free loot? And you also get Manugu ramp token as well. Not like that's a really hard ramp to cap, but yeah, you perform well, you're gonna get the extra rewards. The third boss in this dungeon is called Scalar, and it is, kind of its heart, a very, very simple fight. You essentially nuke the Summoning Spire, nuke the boss, nuke the Summoning Spire, and this repeats for a total of 5 times. So for DPS, you really do want bursty and easy to change single target specs, such as, for example, like Tempest, Paragon, Pyromancer, Inquisitor, and Ranger. Those are all very, very good specs for this fight, and specs that, you know, sort of we've been using in guild groups and also pug groups alike. So I definitely suggest those specs for the DPS because they are awesome for this fight. Now, he does have a few other mechanics that you need to be aware of, but providing that the DPS is sort of on par and it is at a reasonable rate, everybody's doing about sort of 25k plus, then most of these mechanics really aren't going to be too much of a problem. So really the main thing you need to look out for here is Scalar is going to emote, Scalar prepares to give it everything he's got. And what this means is basically he's going to start like a 5-second cast, and at the end of that cast he's going to deal damage based on how much health he has left. Now if he has kind of under 30%, that is easily kind of healable through without any cooldowns. If he is above 30%, either the tank or healer is going to have to pop sort of defensive cooldowns, and if he is sort of above 50%, then both the tank and the healer are going to have to pop cooldowns for the tank to live through that, because it is a very, very hard hitting channeled attack if he does have the health. But if you do have the DPS here, then really this mechanic just becomes so straightforward. As you can see in this video, we've just got perfect DPS. They're nuking the spires when they come up, they're nuking the boss, you know, as soon as the spires are dead, and that is really the flow of the fight. Apart from that, you'll see kind of a handful of other mechanics. Now these mechanics aren't too important, but they're definitely worth noting. So there is Infectious Bile. This will be cast right after a Summoning Spire has been killed. If it's going to be cast, it will be cast on the tank, it will stun them and start spawning adds. Ideally, if one of the DPS can just quickly interrupt that, that is that mechanic dealt with. If the adds are up, you can pretty much ignore them. They're just a bit of a pain in the ass. Now, the last two mechanics really do combo quite nastily with each other. You have Arrested Corruption and you also have this Circle of Death. Now, what's going to happen is Arrested Corruption, it's a buff that he cast on himself. It can be purged, but if you are moving while the buff is up, you're going to take about 35k shadow damage every second. So yeah, if you move while that buff is up, you are going to die very, very quickly, which ties in with the other mechanic that he has, which is basically a large kind of expanding and contracting circle, which basically is just move out of the red. As you can see right there, Arrested Corruption, purge that, move out, move in, boom. You win. If for whatever reason you do not have any way to get a purge in your group, you can actually eat the entire damage of one of those circles, but it just is easier to do that. So what you can do is you can eat the damage of one and then, like, for example, pop a Purifier cooldown or some sort of other AoE healing cooldown just to quickly top the group up. I mean, they hit for about kind of 40 to 50k, so it is a lot of damage, but really there is like no AoE damage going on here whatsoever. So you know, if you do not have, for example, the Purge, it is better to eat the AoE than basically run out of it and take the damage from Arresting Corruption. So that's pretty much it for Scalar, guys. Very, very easy boss. Nuke the boss, nuke the Summoning Spires, rinse and repeat, and GG. You've pretty much defeated the quote-unquote hardest / most difficult boss of the instance, in my opinion. So the last boss is basically a corrupted version of our dear friend Condrom. Basically, he's had a lot of evil livers and bad stuff inside of him, and we need to physically beat that out of him. So this boss is really straightforward. Like, there isn't much to do here for most people. I mean, it's a bit healing intensive on the tank, but mainly it kind of consists of two different phases. So in his active phase, what the tank needs to do is they need to move him into the 3 circles of light. One is located near the entrance, and the other 2 are located sort of at the base of the stairs to the throne. As you can see, there's one there, and then there's just one kind of parallel to it. So once you've moved him into 3 circles of light, and that is all the tank needs to do in this phase, DPSing in this phase is completely pointless. I don't really know why I'm doing it in this video, just something a bit exciting to watch, I suppose. But basically, once you moved him into 3 circles of light, these livers are going to spawn, and you need to nuke the crap out of as many as you can. Usually trying to get 2 down is the kind of target goal for that phase, and you want to coordinate as much burst as you can on each one of the livers. But yeah, it really is as simple as that. So the tank drags him into the light 3 times, livers come out, you nuke the livers, and rinse and repeat that until all 6 livers are dead, and congratulations, you have defeated the boss. Apart from that, there aren't really any other mechanics. As you can see, there are kind of like large and bad expanding AoEs throughout the room. You do not want to stand in those, as they will deal a lot of damage. Also, DPS will want to ensure that they are well away from the tank. As you can see, the tank has a kind of expanding and explosive purple circle surrounding them, and what this is going to do is deal heavy damage to anyone nearby and practically one-shot them. So for this reason, all the DPS stay kind of stacked up near the barrels, while the tank just kind of kites all over the place and gets him into those circles of light as fast as possible. But the kind of key element to not dying as a DPS or healer is staying out of the AoE and staying away from the tank and making sure the tank does kind of stay away from you. But yeah, it really is as simple as that. If you do want to activate hard mode on this boss, there is actually no extra loot for the hard mode, but you do get an achievement, right? If you go up these stairs and go right in front of his phone and emote sit, then it will basically double the difficulty of the boss. So instead of 6, you need to kill 12 livers, and he's going to hit very hard. And it does give you 20 achievement points. I mean, it's a fun thing to do, but before you can sort of do hard mode, I'd suggest making sure your group can kill at least 2 livers per Condrom liver phase, or whatever we're going to call it. We'll call it phase 2. But apart from that, as I said, you know, it's pretty pointless DPSing the boss. You might as well just save all your DPS cooldowns and burst. You know, rogues, for example, can build up 5 combo points and get ready to nuke down the livers just to make this boss, you know, a bit quicker and easier. But apart from that, guys, that is it for Citadel of Insanity. A fairly easy dungeon to run once you get the gist of it. Thank you for watching the video. Take care and have an absolutely great day, ladies and gents.